I'm Rumor. I hope this finds you well. I don't know if you would have seen my introductory video, which was a ramble fest about what my not so clear intentions for this channel are. Is definitely going to be a figuring it out as I go kind of thing. The channel has been here for several years, originally to share book trailers of stories I've written, and I'm just in sort of a hiatus phase with my authorship at the moment, as I mainly wear my editor hat instead and help others with the publication of their stories. And in the meantime, I think writing always filled a very joyful and therapeutic place in my heart. And I did write a story last year for an anthology that will be coming out later this year that I will be sure to share when the time comes. But other than that, I just haven't been writing too much. Not to be one of those precious writers that has to sit around and just wait for the inspiration to strike. But I mean, when any writer knows that when you get in flow with your story, where it's almost like you're tapping into something else, other dimension, I don't know what, and you're just kind of like downloading all these ideas, and it's almost like the story exists out there on its own, and you are just being called to write it. Those moments are magical, and that's what kind of gets you coming back for more and be willing to subject yourself to the tougher days of writer's block and just feeling like your writing is crap and you just have to push through that. But as I said in my last video, I'm not a prolific writer, and fortunately I have clients who are regularly schedule with me. But regardless, I'm not so flaky as to say, oh, I'm not going to do it again. I'm just not interested in it now. But I do feel like I like to move within the rhythms of my life and the ebb and flow of things. And I feel like I am getting more fulfillment from other things of late. And I'm just riding that wave for now. And I think that is perfectly okay because I don't have anyone else holding me to writing another story. It would just be me pressuring myself and setting expectations for myself. And I will, again, at some point. There's a whole book series that I'm back murdering right now that I have an idea for. And I just want to feel properly excited about it. And so, interestingly enough, one of the pastimes that I'm really interested in at the moment includes tarot and other sort of woo interests. And I love it. And it's not showing signs of ebbing as yet. And so I thought, well, if I can't come back to this channel and share more about my writing projects, I can still come here and share things that share other things that I'm up to, which very much shows up in my writing ultimately. One of the more recent stories that I published is a novella that can be found in my Myths, Mothers, and Mystics short story collection. But I have a tarot reader in that story, and there is a scene where she's doing a reading for someone else. And it also includes, crystals and healing properties associated with them, and so on and so forth. I'm very interested in the metaphysical, and I initially dipped my toe into all this, I think, in the name of research, as things that could be used in my stories and have been. I just did not expect to get so swept up in it as I have, because yeah, I feel like it has definitely eclipsed writing for me at the moment as far as what I'm interested in. And it can actually be the tool to help me get back into the flow of writing as well, because I think that where cartomancy in particular goes, as far as like tarot and oracle, the traditional meanings of those cards, as well as the visual interpretations that can come forth, it all comes together as a story, when you're laying out a spread of cards and having to interpret and tie it all together, there's like a narrative flow to it. And there's a lot of study that goes into understanding the tarot, but there's also a lot of room for intuition. And I feel like maybe because my writing sort of dried up a couple years ago, not completely, I'm still writing, but I just was, I don't know, just kind of feel like need more of a push, or just I have these story ideas, but they're not really flowing from me. And I really found that like working with tarot was helping me gain more confidence in my own intuitive and creative abilities. And that by doing readings, predominantly for myself, only every now and then I'll do it for someone else, not professionally, just friends and family, as or even Facebook followers. Sometimes I put myself out there for that, and I should do that more. And I am looking to do that more because it's fun to read for other people. It's really different than reading for myself, and that's something I would like to fine tune a bit better. But at any rate, I just find that like even reading for myself, like just learning how to get to that more intuitive place, because I think as a writer, that's where I got stunted a bit, because I feel like I'm my left brain, right brain. They always say, one is dominant over the other. And I believe that to be true for myself, but I feel like they're still very almost equally matched, because there is this very like logical, analytical component that I'm very like drawn to in whatever I do. And I think that's what appeals to me about editing and editing my own writing when I do it, because it's almost like math when it comes down to the mechanics of grammar. And I like, sort of like head down, detail oriented work like that sometimes, but I don't like that all the times, which is also why editing is fulfilling if it also encompasses working with authors on their character development, their plot development, helping to maintain continuity and plausibility, and it's all the creativity that I would put into my own stories too. And so it's that blend of like the creative and the bit that's like produced in flow, like when I'm drafting. I guess this is what I'm getting down to. I think I get caught up with like I stumble with writing largely because I overthink and feel like things have to be right the first time, and I'm not very good about just sitting and writing and just letting it flow without any thought of whether it sucks or not. And I think that's the key, is like let it suck. Just keep writing. Just don't stop. And reading tarot is a similar thing, especially when you're reading for other people, because I don't want to be stumbling and just like stopping and starting and interpreting each card in isolation. It's like I know the cards well enough to know what they mean, and I feel like if I stop and dwell and think about something too much, it's gonna cause a block and kind of like interrupt the flow of the reading. And so it's like I can find my intuitive place by just like just talking and just talking it out and not really like stopping too much. And so I don't know if this is making any sort of sense, but I'm finding personally parallels between the act of reading tarot and the act of writing. And I being that one is like meeting my fancy more over the other at the moment. I'm hoping that it's going to help like open up the possibilities and the motivation and the creative flow again that I can put into future stories, whether those are short stories or more novels. So we'll see how that goes. But in any case, that is legitimately why I originally got into this stuff, because I thought it would help me with that. And I still feel like a storyteller when I'm reading the cards. But yeah, for whatever reason, there just hasn't been a lot getting me just back at the computer and working with some of the plots and characters that I've been brainstorming. And I don't know. I don't even know why I got into this whole rant at the moment. I just felt like after doing my last video, I wanted to draw more of a connection between these things because I acknowledge that I'm the channel and kind of like the scattered ideas that I have for it now going forward probably seems random ass. And I'm just hoping that I'm making clear that there's kind of a common thread to all of this. And I'm hoping that if I am doing videos on tarot or even crystals, whatever I might talk about, that it's clear that it does relate to my stories because first of all, it relates to me. And whether I'm writing a story, there's usually autobiographical things that can creep in there, but even if not, I'm not going to write a story about things that I'm not personally interested in. If I'm going to research for a story, I have to be fascinated with that. It has to be something that will motivate me to want to do that research. And so all of these things, all of these interests that I have are things that are going to find their way into a story in some form or another. They have in what I already have out there. They definitely will in what comes out in the future. So even though I'm in this like hiatus period right now with my writing, I'm hoping that like the videos and the content that I share here doesn't seem completely irrelevant to that if that's what you're here for and that's what you're interested in. As much as I'll be self-deprecating about it and call it random, it's not random to me. There's an underlying thread to it all that connects it, at least for myself. And so I will talk about my books still as I feel moved to, because I think it's worthwhile. I've never really done that, at least at this channel, just kind of explaining what some of the inspirations were for certain stories or where they're set and little, factoids about that or the process even. So I am sure that I'm going to touch on things like that. I guess I'm just asking you all to bear with me if I'm also talking, at least from the outset, mostly about like tarot and stuff like that, because that's what I'm really interested in right now. And I think I'm really in my own head with it because it is something I mainly do for myself and by myself. And so I'm really just looking for an outlet to kind of talk some of this stuff out and share. And again, like I said in my last video, if it resonates with someone out there, that's so great. And if this is otherwise all boring you to tears, my apologies. There's no one forcing you to watch my videos going forward. So be discerning. And I will catch you next time.